Welcome Pisces to your in-depth monthly horoscope for October 2024 for the Ascendant, the Sun or the Moon. Please do take advantage of your year 2025 personal horoscope forecast based on your unique birth data. If you order it now, you can get the rest of year 2024 free, plus your life roadmap report and 30% off. On the screen now, I'm showing your event chart right at the start of the month, which will prove influential. The big takeout is that as September came to a close, we had a Mercury cazimi. That's where the Sun and Mercury are in total unison. The Sun amplifies the energy of Mercury, which is about communication through its rulership of Gemini and precision through its rulership of Virgo. But for you, they're clustered together at the start of this month in house 8, and that's very much getting beneath the surface of situations, really drilling down and understanding the more psychological influences, but anything to do with life's transitions and changes. So if you're evolving in a big way, this month is going to be key, but also Pisces, the next 6 months too, because the solar eclipse across the 2nd and 3rd of October is rich with potential. If you're an entrepreneurial fish, this is your chance to shine. What's not to like? Well, it's just as you start this month, the moon's in a very positive location for you in your 7th house, which gives you the opportunity to find points of interest with others, points of agreement, but it is broadly opposed by Saturn in your sign. So you might have to push yourself at times to connect with others. But what's going to help you this month is the wonderful energies of Mars. Mars is the planet of passion, the planet of identity in some ways, but also about instant gratification through its rulership of Scorpio. And it's in your 5th house, your sister water sign of Cancer. And it's going to be very influential through this month, through to the 4th of November, and then again in the early part of next year, which could be very positive in terms of your creative output, but also potentially romantically too. But Mars is going to apply in 2 very potent ways later this month to 2 big events, which I'll share with you as we go on. But also at the start of this month, we need to be mindful of the lunar eclipse which occurred in your sign across the 17th and 18th of September, because the shimmering mesmeric energies of Neptune was very close to that. But the 1st house and the energies from it is very much about your individuality. The 8th house is where we're more invested in others, perhaps financially, perhaps emotionally. Can be the sector of devotion if a relationship's going very well. But the 1st house is asking you through that lunar eclipse to stay in touch with what you need as an individual, and to make sure you get the tip point between what you need and where you're going to invest and connect is not necessarily an easy thing to align. And that's going to be a pattern for you over the next 6 months. What can help you at the start of this month, however, is that Venus is in a glorious location. Venus isn't just about relationships, can be about charm, aesthetics, but also money. But in the 9th house, it points towards some kind of adventure, or the potential for an adventure, or connecting to someone who's a little bit different, particularly at the heart of this month. But by the end of the 1st week, it does connect. She does connect with Saturn in your sign. So though Saturn is a bit inhibiting of the moon at the start of the month, you get an opportunity, if you are linking with people that you feel there's a good rapport with, there's a respect, perhaps you share interests, maybe culturally, maybe philosophically, maybe to do with enjoying things like bands, exhibitions, and so forth. Those areas are all strengthened through the 1st week of this month. But what about your traditional ruler Jupiter? It goes into a retrograde each year for 4 months. That starts on the 9th of this month, but it also occurs for you in the part of your situation to do with how you feel about things. Now, because you're a water sign, your senses can often be very heightened, but shaping that into something that's more that's clearer to you can sometimes prove a little elusive. But what this Jupiter retrograde gives you the chance to do is actually dive down deep into your needs, but particularly around where you live, who you live with and how, and anything to do with your family life, because there could be some growth there, but it may come from what you discover deep within you. But for some Pisces people, this could be a time when you do consider moving, and Jupiter still forges, despite the retrograde, a sparkling alliance to the Sun, which reaches a peak on the 14th. If you have been waiting to hear about a financial outcome or something to do with a property matter, good news can bless you despite that Jupiter retrograde. But on the 12th, Pluto, which has been retracing its steps through your sector of friendship and future directions from the 2nd of September, goes direct. If since the 2nd of September through to the middle of this month, some people make way in terms of your friendship circle, wouldn't be a surprise. Pluto is about transitions, but it's also about consequences. Since 2008, you may have got to know quite a few different types of people, but not all of those players will still be in your life now. The people that are from now through to the 19th of November are likely to be in your life for your life. However, also at the heart of this month, we do have a very electric and exciting opposition between Venus and also Uranus. A completely spontaneous conversation that you have. It may be online, it could be in the most mundane of situations where you start chatting to someone. It could just be that you hold the door open, turn around, and someone has an energy about them that is just so enticing, but also you can also quickly start talking, and maybe it's a bit of a tease, some jousting, but very exciting. That's possible at the heart of this month too. And then Mercury moves from the deep, rather subterranean energies of the sign of Libra for you, and into the part of your situation, the sign of Scorpio, which is much more to do with opening up your world. Join in with Venus initially, but that's intercepted by, on the 17th, the full moon, and this is where Mars starts to show its might. The full moon occurs in your sector of everyday money. The Sun's in the part of your scope to do with shared resources, long-term financial planning, anything to do with pensions, savings, investments, entrepreneurship. But Mars intersects the two of them in the part of your scope to do with speculation. If you're tempted on this full moon to do something quite suddenly with your resources, do be aware that there could be a consequence for that. It doesn't mean to say it won't work out, but Mars can be so impulsive, and because it's the ruler of the sign of Aries where the moon is, that in itself is quite an impulsive place for the moon to be. So it's important that if you do make quite a quick decision, you're aware that that decision may play out not quite as you expect. But then again, you could find yourself attracted to someone. Maybe it's that person you've had that flirtatious conversation with, that suddenly the electric sexual energy between you is really turned up to max. Now, if that's not what you're looking for in your situation, just be aware that you could feel the need to splurge, to buy something that just seems so enticing, and it may be very hard to resist. On the 17th, however, Venus moves into the part of your chart that's to do with success. If you are someone who needs to cultivate a particular image in your work or your career, Venus's felt energies here can be very helpful to you. But Venus is then challenged in the last week of this month by Saturn in your sign. You may find that despite your pleasantries and the care you take over building some kind of relationship, particularly with someone who can be an influencer, that suddenly the door may seem to close quite firmly shut, which could be quite bruising. Just be aware the Sun moves to join with Mercury in your sister water sign of Scorpio on the 22nd, but it too clashes with Pluto. I think it's possible that some piece of information or a perspective can come up about a friendship and helps you to see things in a slightly different way it may be a bit disappointing, but at least you'll know where you stand. But then the second of the very powerful events that feature Mars. Mars goes face to face with Pluto. This is one of astrology's most strident influences. It can give people huge willpower. Mars in the 5th house can be about romance, desire, passion, play, sociability, impulsiveness. Pluto in the 11th house is asking you to think about how your future will play out. And because they're going face to face, it is kind of like a very big standoff, which can create a lot of tension if you're interacting with someone who's equally as strong-willed as you, and you both don't want to budge on a point of view. But it can work in a very constructive way, that it can give you the furnace of energy to work towards a longer term aspiration, because the 11th house is not so much about a goal, it's more about something that has a spiritual dimension to your desire to go for it. Can really be fantastically strong as this month comes to a close. So to recap, a time of transitions, balancing where you're invested with a need to maintain your individuality is important from the eclipses. Jupiter retrograde doesn't need to be unlucky, but it could see you thinking about where you live, how you live there. If you're trying to move, it could all fall into place at the middle of this month. A very sparkling encounter is possible at the heart of this month, but also perhaps some feist in an existing relationship. It won't be dull. The chance to widen your horizons and travel towards the end of this month, but if you're feeling impulsive around resources, make sure that you can afford to enjoy that moment and not have a classic case of buyer's remorse. But then towards the end of the month, there is that titanic opposition between Mars and Pluto, which certainly will create some dramatic excitement for us all. Have a great month, and do please check out that year 2025 personal horoscope forecast offer. You'll get the rest of this year free, but also 30% off with your life roadmap report, all based totally on your unique birth data, and great value too. Please see the link below for more.